Hey everyone, Ryan Young, KAATARO Jiu-jitsu. I hope you're doing well. So, question Rusty and I were kind of discussing about a video topic. Has to do with this last weekend, we had a tournament that we participated in, local tournament here in Dallas-Fort Worth. I just had one guy. You know, we don't have a lot of people that like to compete. The biggest team we've ever fielded for a competition was 8 people, and that was for Hicks and Gracie Cup. The Hicks and Gracie Cup last year in November. So almost a year ago we did that one. Competition is not our huge thing, but I do every once in a while have a student who wants to compete. So this one student I have, he's a white belt. He's gotten to be a pretty good white belt, been with us since December or so, and here we are in August. So about 8-9 months now. He's probably in about his 4th or 5th competition, and I haven't been able to be there for all of them. And that's one of the things I let the students know too, the ones who want to compete. I'm not gonna be able to be there for all of them. I will try, being that I keep the weekends for me, there's often times when I can't make it out to a tournament. Of course, they've gotten better. When I was competing, they would tell you compete at 12 noon and you wouldn't compete till 8 that night. It was really bad. Now, at least if they say you're gonna compete at 2, you'll pretty much be on the mat at 2. So in that way, it's a little bit better. So I can go in maybe half an hour, 45 minutes prior, and I can stay for another half an hour after that. And you know, the whole process might take me an hour and a half. So that's not bad. I had a student that competed, and this is the 2nd time that I've been able to be mat side for him. And I think he's competed maybe 5 times so far. And it does seem that he does better when I'm mat side with him. However, one of my problems with competition is that you can win by points. His overall record is 5-1. He lost 1 by points, and part of it was because the guy who went up against the 2nd match had a bye, and since he had a bye, my student had his match, and literally 2 minutes later, they put him on the mat with this fresh guy, the guy who ended up winning the whole thing anyway, but he ended up losing by points. I don't know what the score was anymore offhand, but he had tapped his first guy prior to that, and then had that points loss, and then tapped 2 more guys after that. He actually had more wins than the actual winner of the weight class did. And all of his wins were submissions. But yet he still took 3rd because he lost his 2nd match. Yeah, and so that was kind of a problem that I had with it, but you know, that's what it is. I mean, that's the rules you go in by, and you gotta kind of be happy with it. So he went 3-1 that day, and then this last tournament, he went 1-1. So actually, I take it back, I say 1-1, I'll explain to you why in a second. He went 2-0. Tapped the first guy, went up with the 2nd guy, beat him 15-2. But one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about, 1 minute left in the match, he was winning 15-2. And all I know is I looked back at the score and I saw 15-2, and that didn't even faze me. I just saw 1 minute left. And I just started yelling at him. Come on, you can do it, keep moving, because he was getting tired, obviously, you know. The matches are intense. And he would get to a position, he would stop, and I'm yelling him, keep moving, because I want him to hunt for that submission. And I just remember looking back again, and I saw that he had 20 seconds left, and I'm still yelling at him, come on, keep going. And when the match finished, when the whistle blew or whatever, however they end the match, I knew he won the match, but I was still pissed off. I was legitimately pissed off because he didn't submit the guy. And you know, he knows as well as my students know that if you're gonna go in to compete, I want them to go in for the submission. And I'm not happy, you know, if he were to be 2-0 and both wins were by points, to me, and I tell him, I go, that's a tie because you didn't submit the guy. You know, just because the rules say you won, and granted, you know, by you winning, even if it's by points, it gets you advanced to the next bracket, okay, fine, or the next round, then fine, yeah, okay, then a win means something. But at the end of the day, you know, even though he's 5-1, I told him, to me, in my mind, his record is 4-1-1. Because 4 submissions, 1 loss via points, and the tie is this last win, the one that got him the gold medal, because he didn't submit the guy. It's not that I'm being hard on him, it's just that's just how I think. In that, you know, I just kind of think of Crone, right? When Crone was a brown belt, I think he went something like 85-0, and all his matches were by submission. And so it's not something that's impossible, it's something that is possible. And here's a guy at white belt. It's almost as if, I'm not gonna say that the win doesn't count, because the win does count, he got the gold medal. But to me, it's if you're gonna go in, you have to go in to win. And to go in to win, you have to submit the guy. Because if you go in to a tournament and your thinking is, okay, I won by points. You could literally pass somebody's guard. And what is it, 2 points, 3 points? I don't know. And then just hold cross-eyed on him and don't let him out for the entire remaining 4 minutes or however long your match is. And you won. But did you really do anything? You know, according to the rules, you won, but the guy on the bottom just laid there and you didn't get him, you didn't submit him, you didn't make him give up, you didn't make him quit on you, nothing. It's just time ran out. Now, granted, I guess you had good position on him, but if you took a chance and went for something, you might have lost the position. And if you lose a position in transition, he may have tapped you. Or let's say this is a fight. And let's say you're cross-eyed at him and you start throwing a punch at him. But by throwing that punch, you give him that space he needs to get back into guard, and then he ends up destroying you. Playing safe, why even bother, right? You know, contrast that, I had another student who competed and he knows the way I think, right? And I was there for him. He would lock down on his opponent and he wouldn't move. And he lost that first match because he wasn't able to submit the guy. And at the same time, I think he lost 4-2. He was up 2-0, the guy ended up sweeping him, and then something else happened, and I think he ended up losing 4-2. And I told him, I said, you know, he's not gonna try to submit you. You know, these guys aren't gonna try to submit you, so you should, you know, just keep moving, just try to submit him. Second match, he locked down on his second guy, and he ended up losing again by points. And you know, we spoke about it next week, or the week after the tournament, and he was saying, man, if I just, you know, didn't move this one time, he wouldn't have swept me and I would have won 2-0 or something like that. And I had to remind him, yes, that's true, but it's not true in a way because that's just points, right? He lost both his matches, but neither guy tried to submit him. And I really, in my mind, don't think either one of them could. And I think that's why neither one of them tried. And this is blue belt level, guys. My thinking is this: if you feel your opponent cannot submit you, you need to move and you need to try to submit him. Don't just lay there and just pin the guy or try to pin the guy and try to just let time run out. Otherwise, why even bother, right? I guess so you can say you're a competitor and you got a gold medal. You know, and I know that it kind of seems a little off in my thinking. I know a lot of you thinking, you know, wait a minute, I compete, and are you saying Ryan is saying my wins aren't worth anything? I'm not saying your wins aren't worth anything. I'm just saying that for my students, when they want to compete, not under my rules, because they can compete if they want to. I'm not stopping them from competing. It's just that this is the way I think. It's almost like if you want my approval, then this is the way I would feel really good, you know, by representing my school. This is the way that I would feel with a points win versus a submission win. And I think a lot of it comes down to, back when I started in Hawaii, there were no competitions. I left Hawaii, moved to California shortly after that Helson held the first tournament in Hawaii. First tournament outside of Brazil, I think Helson sanctioned in Hawaii in like '92. Shortly after that, I think there was a RICKSON school versus Gracie Academy. They had a tournament. I competed in that one. And then I think there's a few others. I think Joe Morera in Irvine, he was having a few of them. It was made like once a year kind of thing. And so tournaments were maybe once a year, if you were lucky, twice in a year. But like in Brazil, when they talk about, the really old school guys, guys who were black belts long before I was one, long before I started, they would say how jiu-jitsu was you train every day. And Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, self-defense, you're fighting for Vale Tudo, or you're training for Vale Tudo because, you may do a challenge, you may do a fight, but maybe once a year, maybe twice in a year, they'll have a big tournament. So then what they'll do is 30 days before the tournament, they'll start training for the tournament, right? Thinking about how the rules are and how they gotta move and, get themselves out of the mode of, maybe striking, don't do that, They only had a handful of rules. It wasn't a lot of rules, but they had points. And then after the tournament was over, they go right back to their regular training, the Vale Tudo training, if they're training with no gi, and with the gi, just regular self-defense and, just jiu-jitsu. And that's what I was brought up in because there were no competitions. So to you, it's life. It's I'm doing this so that I can protect myself. And so then we wouldn't do stuff like invert. We wouldn't do even half guard. I remember getting yelled at for doing a half guard by Helson. We wouldn't let ourselves get picked up off of the ground. Various things, right? And you're always training with the thought that a hand could come flying at your head at any moment in time. But as time has gone on and competitions are now prolific, you have 2-3 tournaments often in a month in Dallas, of all places. Forget about Southern California. Southern California probably has, 8 tournaments a month. And you can go all over California and do tournaments because they're all over. So you could compete every single weekend if you wanted to. But back when I started, you couldn't do that. So the goals were different. And if you're gonna be competing, then it makes sense that you wanna be a winner and you wanna win within the rules. I remember I was in one tournament, it might've been one of the original Pan Ams. I went up against a guy who was from Brazil and he sucked weight. And this was a time when they would weigh in on Friday and we'd compete on Sunday. So on the mat, this guy was huge. I never cut weight. I did a run what you brung kind of mentality. Where this guy, he looked like he was a good 15 pounds heavier than me. I just remember we got a takedown, he got 2 points, he got cross-eyed on me, and my cross-eyed escapes are no good. I didn't understand the concept. This is when I'm purple belt. My whole thing, the escape was just get on my side, right? Don't let them turn to my side. But I never thought in the way that I do now, like, well, just assume they get you on your back, and you got to get out from there. This guy got me pinned to my back, and he didn't try to submit me. He just laid there. Every move I did, he would follow me, and the ref would just kind of look away. They were saying there'd be no stalling, but the ref would kind of look around, and that's how he ended up winning. I think he beat me 2-0. And I thought to myself, man, is that what competing is? Right? I was so pissed off. I'm thinking, man, that's bullshit. But that's kind of where the sour taste in my mouth came. And then I think there was a tournament after that. It was Rickson's Association versus Machado's, and I remember competing with that one, and a guy triangling me 6 times in a match, and I escaped 6 times. And every single time I escaped, I was more and more depleted. And I finally choked him out in like the last, I think maybe 1 or 2 seconds to spare, he tapped out. But I was so done by that point. I remember Rickson having to carry me off of the mat. But to me, that was good because I submitted the guy. That was my experience in tournaments. That it was all submit. And Rickson saying submit. So if Rickson says to submit, I'm gonna submit. And for me, I'm gonna accept nothing less. But now it's okay to win without submitting somebody. So tell me this, is my thinking wrong? Should I be thinking differently about tournaments? Because on the one hand, I do want to encourage my guys to want to better themselves. I think there are a lot of ways you can better yourself. Jiu-jitsu, there's all kind of ways in jiu-jitsu, but do you need to do it competing in tournaments where there are points involved? Now, I would say yes. You do want to compete in them, and I by no means want to restrict anybody from competing. I want you to compete. But at the same time, is it fair for me to be thinking to myself and letting my guys know, it's good, you won, but you didn't tap the guy. I don't know. So, one of the things about winning is you want to win. And there has to be, in society, there has to be a clear-cut winner. A winner where the loser has been broken and the winner has triumphed. In a tournament, by winning by points or winning by ref's decision or winning by advantage, you technically won. You won within the rule book. Given time constraints, I guess you can't have a match that goes an hour. Although you should be able to, but you don't. But yeah, so technically you won. So now let's kind of take it back to, if you think about if a guy stole money from me and I took him to court, to get my money back. And his lawyer was really good, better than mine. And his lawyer was able to get the court dismissed on a technicality. It doesn't fix the fact that I got my money back, because I didn't. The guy did steal my money. And when I sued him, I tried to take it through the legal system. I ended up losing out to it because he was able to get out of technicality. One example of a technicality in a court case might be a statute of limitations, right? So it happened more than 2 years ago, Ryan. So because of that, even though it is wrong, it's 2 years. 2 years has elapsed before you brought the case, so you lose it, right? So now let's kind of come back to jiu-jitsu. we went to a match, nobody scored a point, nobody scored an advantage, and at the end of the day, you're standing up and the ref pulls the other guy's hand up. Why? Because he said so? Technically, yes, right? That's why he won. Do you blame me, or should anybody blame me for being pissed off at that type of match? Because I did have a student who did experience that. Back when I started, if you pulled guard, that was a negative advantage, right? The person who didn't pull guard would get the advantage. Well, in this match, the guy did pull guard, but apparently it's not a disadvantage anymore to pull guard. I don't know. Is that because everybody's playing guard game now? Where it's no longer a penalty to pull guard. It used to be one. You guys can explain to me if it's okay with the rules, because I don't know, I don't care that much, and I'm not gonna certainly look into the rules to find out. I really gotta care to figure. With my students, it's if you lose, you lose, right? If you lost by points, well, you shouldn't let them score the points. Or, if you've done what you're supposed to be doing, then he wouldn't have scored. To this day, I don't know what positions are worth. Like I just said earlier, I'm not gonna go find out. And because I don't want my students winning by points. I don't want them thinking points. I don't want them thinking, okay, if you pass guard, you get 3 points. If you knee in the belly, you get, 2? I don't know. If you mount, you'll get, that mount I know is 4, right? If you take us back, then 4, right? Then you jump off to knee in the belly and you go back to mount. You jump off to knee in the belly, go back to mount. So you run the score like 20-0, right? So that kind of reminds me of an old story I did that I talked about. It was on the Hall's Gracie video. So those of you who haven't seen the history of Hall's Gracie, you might want to see that. Maybe Rusty will put a link right up there. But one of his black belts, and he had only a handful of them, but they're all spectacular, right? Marcio Stamboski, if I remember right, he was talking about how he was in a match back in Brazil. Stamboski's probably in his 60s now, he's an older guy. He was running the score up like 12-0. And after the score reached 12-0, then he tapped him. I don't know if it was whatever the reason was, but it got 12-0 and then he submitted the guy. He said he walked off the mat and he was happy because, he tapped the guy. Halls was not happy. And he said he asked Halls later on, what did I do, right? I beat the guy, I submitted him. Tell me what I did wrong. And what he did wrong was he ran the score up to 12 before he felt that he needed to tap the guy. Basically what Halls was saying was you had opportunities to tap him sooner, but you ran the score up before you tapped him. If you could score 2 points and tap him right there, you should have tapped him right there. And I agree with that. Because the sooner you tap the guy out, the sooner the match is over, the more rest you have. So in this last tournament we did this past weekend, our guy tapped out his opponent probably in about a minute. So if they allow 5 minutes for a match, he gets another 4 minutes to rest, plus he gets another 5 minutes after that, or something like that. So he had a lot of rest. So he was fresh for his second match. So that's another good reason to tap somebody. But I'm kind of happy, I guess, that, to be in good company with Hall's Gracie, then I must not be doing, or I must not be thinking something wrong, right? And if you see Hall's video with Rickson when he's training with Rickson, he has a very aggressive style. I mean, he went after Rickson. So that would kind of explain his mentality. And that would explain how Halls would line everybody up in the studios, wherever he'd train at, his studio or anybody's studio. He'd line everybody up, all the black belts, and go one after the other and just tap them all out. And Rickson was known to do the same thing. Anyway, let me know what you guys think of that, and just in the comments. And then, I look at the comments once every day or two, and I'll respond. And be sure to like and subscribe, and make sure you click that bell so that the video will come to you when we drop a new video. Also want to thank you for supporting us through our channel. It takes a lot of time and money and resource and all that to create these videos for you. Just go ahead and clicking on our links. We have Teesprings, we have shirts over there. You can buy Kama Jiu-Jitsu t-shirts. We've got the KAATARO links. We've got the Patreon channel if you want to see the technical stuff. All that kind of stuff helps the channel. Also, please share the video. If you find that the videos that we do are useful to you, share them, and we really appreciate it. Other than that, that's all I have for you. Take care, happy training. Bye-bye now. So which side of me looks better? This side or this side?